Hi, I'm John, the Banking Systems Engineer Turmel, and I'll be talking about Stephen Colbert's January 14th show where he had Alan Khazei on, a man asking everybody to give 1 day's volunteer service for no pay on Martin Luther King Day. Stephen Colbert, my guest believes all Americans should do their part to make this country better. Yes, I can't do it all myself. Welcome, Alan Khazei, and that's Khazei. Your organization, BeTheChange.org, is calling for next Monday, Martin Luther King Day, to be a day of national service. Why should anybody do something for someone else and not get paid for it? He said, what's a scam? What's the upside of helping other people? So Casey said, when you help others, you help yourself. Casey, Martin Luther King said, when you give, you get. Everybody can be great because everyone can serve. We need to call on all Americans to do their part, to give back to this country. So all the people who didn't get out of this country, because they're poor now and have been ripped off, should go give back by working for free. Stephen says, I pay taxes. Right you do, Stephen. Taxes should be used to pay the people who help. Oh, sadly, there aren't enough tax monies because so much is siphoned off to service debt before it can be used to service people. So we need unpaid volunteers because there's no money. So he says, I give every night. What more do all of us have to give to the nation? Says Stephen, and I go, right. Khazei, well, you're doing your part, but we need to call. He's doing his part because he can pay, but we're calling on our young people, our boomers, our millennials, to say we're all in this together. Our country's facing tremendous problems. Unemployment, Stephen said. We're facing tremendous problems, right? The way the economy is right now, if you got everybody working for nothing, the economy's going to go down the toilet. So Stephen recognizes that getting broke people to volunteer time really doesn't help with the root problem. So how is the engine of the economy helped by people saying, let me help you take those groceries up the stairs for you? Khazei, it's not up the stairs. Well, okay, across the street. Khazei, well, there are a lot of organizations. AmeriCorps, Peace Corps, Teach for America. So many organizations out there saying all of us have to be part of making our country great. We have to give what we can to make a difference. Particularly, we have to call on our young people, 17 to 24, to give a year full time, to dedicate their energies. Stephen says, give a year full time? Are you calling the draft people? Well, of course not. When you draft people, you got to pay them. This is unpaid work. So Casey says, no. He says, are you introducing a draft? A nice draft? A niceness draft? And you can't because you have to pay them. So he says, it's all voluntary. People choose it. In fact, there are more and more that want to serve than can. Of course, the more and more unemployed people and lack of jobs out there, the more and more will be able to serve and offer. Right now, AmeriCorps gets 3 applicants for every spot. Teach for America has 37,000 people applicants for every spot. So what does he want to do? Make it 40,000 applying for 5,000 spots? If they're already overbooked, why urge people to go and book? So this generation wants to serve, but they need the Congress and the President to support new legislation. Stephen says, if you have young people serve people, how are you going to rebuild the financial sector? How are the housing sector if these people are out there just helping other people? There ain't no cash in it. Where's the money? Follow the money. I believe Martin Luther King also said follow the money. He said, I got my money on my mind on my money and my money on my mind. One of the things I believe he said. And Casey said, I can assure you Martin Luther King did not say that. So Stephen said, well, don't you think it's ironic on Martin Luther King Day to be asking people to work for no pay? I mean, wasn't he fighting against that for black people? And of course, now it's all okay because they're going to do it to all people. AK. Actually, Martin Luther King was leading the country in service. It's not us calling for a day of service. It's the King family. So Stephen says, you say this nation, America, was built on national service. Casey, that's true. Stephen, no, it's not true. America was built on a lot of things. It was built on people who had a tea fetish, built on Indian burial grounds. Casey, this country was founded by citizen soldiers who put down their pitchforks and picked up their muskets to overthrow an empire. An empire that was threatening them. Big difference. The abolitionists that led the movement to end slavery. The suffragette movement to get... I'm the abolitionist leader in Canada. This ending debt slavery. They didn't finish. They only got rid of the metal chains. Those abolitionists, they didn't realize there were invisible debt chains that still had to be removed. That's my job. To give women the right to vote. The civil rights movement. It has always been citizens who have led the change in this country. Well, I guess so. I'm doing it on my own. 30 years with no support from government or anybody else. And that's what we need now. We need to call on all of us to do national community service, to get involved. We at Service Nation are saying we need all hands on deck. So Stephen says, sell me on the idea of this voluntary service. What do I get out of it? So Casey says, you get a chance to discover your full potential. Well, yeah, just like a real job, except for no money. You can also... And Stephen says you can also backpack through Europe to discover your full potential. So he goes, you get a change to make a real difference. Well, just like a paying job, except for no money. You get a chance to tutor children to learn how to read. Yeah, just like a real teacher, but for no money. You get a chance to build homes for people who've lost their homes thanks to Katrina. Yeah, just like a paying job as a carpenter, but for no money. You get a chance to take care of senior citizens who need help living independently in their homes. Gee, that's exactly what the volunteers in a $time system do, except they get $time. They get their service time credited to a time bank account. So you get the chance to realize we're all in this together. Yeah. Just like a paying job, but no cash. You get a chance to work with people from different backgrounds. Yeah, like a paying job, but for no cash. Finally, and you get a chance to earn a college scholarship to help pay your way through school. Finally, some kind of reward. And Stephen says, so there is a financial incentive, too. And Casey says, there is for people who do it full time. Take no money for a year full time, and then we'll give you some education. There's public servants. They're public servants, just like our firefighters, police officers, and teachers. Yeah, just like a paying job, except for only a possible scholarship. Casey, we're calling on all Americans to sign this declaration of service to say we are ready to serve for no pay. Of course, they could all join a time bank and be paid and have their time credited, and in 20 years when they have to call on those services, they can get them back and be repaid. Of course, they don't know about time banks, so of course they're confused. So he said, we'd love to have Colbert-nation join with Service Nation. So Stephen said, no problem. First he joked, he said, I've got to hear we're running out of time. But then he said finally, okay, no problem, I'll sign. And he signed the declaration, and then Stephen urged, he joked that he signed it Eugene Truthnick. Here you go. Then he said, BeTheChange.org, that's the place. Volunteer your time, do it Monday, and I'll be right back. Just imagine if Stephen urged his Colbert-nation to not only volunteer one day on Martin Luther King Day, but as many days as possible, and he opened up and let them log on to his Colbert-nation computer so they could register the time that they've given to their community with an explanation of what the time did. That would be how a time bank would work. And then you'd be getting credit, you'd be getting paid for your time, you'd be getting rewarded for your time. It wouldn't be just people who have no jobs may as well give up their time for free. So now we have to get the message to Stephen to let him know that a one day a year effort isn't going to help very much. How many of his people actually did anything? Probably few. But should he start up a time bank that said we're going to credit everybody who does work somewhere in their community with $10 an hour, then he'd have a way of paying people for those services. And his original objection, why should anybody work for anybody else for nothing? Hey, in a world where you got time banks available, nobody ever needs to work for nothing ever again. So let's hope that somehow or other Stephen finds out about this and decides that maybe he's going to interview Edgar Kahn from the Time Bank, okay? Why doesn't he contact the guy who organized the El Paso nuns to do their volunteer services and get credit for them? Credits they could collect on later. Hadn't Stephen and his crew and his workers heard about Timedollars? Hasn't Mr. Casey, Alan Casey, heard about Timedollars? Why should people work for no credit when there's a system out there that can let them work and get their time credited to their account? So let's hope that Stephen becomes a mover. He obviously seems to understand the injustice of people being offered who have no job to volunteer their time. That's not going to help. So let's hope that this message gets through to him. Stephen sees that Timedollars could be an answer. Maybe he should have Edgar Kahn on his show explaining how to volunteer time and get credit for it instead of Mr. Casey, who doesn't seem to be aware of how Timedollars help volunteers get credits for their time.